Hey everybody, welcome back to the Scenic Grid Astrology. My name is Makayla. I'm a professional evolutionary and predictive astrologer, spiritual coach, psychic medium, and channel. And we're coming back 2 videos in a row. Very excited to talk about Jupiter today, as you could tell from the title. And actually, I decided to gear us up for the big Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's happening on April 20th. Okay, and that's going to be at 21 degrees and 49 minutes of Taurus. And I've noticed like a lot of hype around this conjunction in the astrology world, which is well deserved because this is a once in a lifetime transit that we're going to experience. And it's two very interesting planets coming together and meeting in a certain section of our chart. And there is ample opportunity given that both Uranus and Jupiter can present those gifts in a person's natal chart and also by transit. So if you haven't watched the video that I posted yesterday on the archetype of Uranus and its transits and my own personal journey as well, please go give that a watch as well as this video. And I'm also going to have two other videos that talk about the transits of Jupiter through the houses and the transits of Uranus through the houses. So this is a 4-part series that I'm working on that I hope helps you synthesize what this big opportunity coming for you personally could mean in your chart. I have, in my opinion, a different approach when it comes to Jupiter, and this is coming from the teachings of my teacher, Tom Jacobs, also some of Simon Forster, but mostly I resonated with Tom Jacobs, who learned from Stephen Forrest as well, and Jeffrey Wolfgrain, and from my own personal practice with watching the transits of Jupiter in my personal life and other people's and charts and stuff. This is really what resonates with me. So if we can tap in and tune in to the feeling dynamic of these energies and these transits, then we're better equipped to capitalize on this opportunity and this gift that's coming right around the eclipses in April. Okay, so we're in this really powerful transition, this really powerful time of astrology happening, especially with the eclipses in Aries and Libra, and there's a lot of relationship dynamics going on, and Pluto and Aquarius would really back that up, and it's forming a trine to that South Node in Libra. So I really don't think this is a transit that people want to miss. And I think that what I have to say will bring some true value to what Jupiter is going to mean. So right now, I'm just going to talk about what Jupiter means by transit or in the natal chart as well, but mostly by transit. And then in a different video, I will synthesize the two as well, like with the actual chart of the conjunction that day, so everyone can get a better and deeper understanding of what's coming ahead. So, okay, so let me pull up my notes. And okay, so the first thing that I think is important to denote is that Jupiter has 11.8, 11 year cycle 0.8, so 11.8 year cycle around the chart, but a lot of astrologers just round up and say it's 12-year transition. It's easier to look at it like that. I have no problem with looking at it like that, and I do it myself. But to be critical, if we want to know, it's 11.8. So every 12 years, you'll have a Jupiter return. You'll be working on different Jupiterian themes, and you'll also get like a nice reset when it comes to that, when that time comes. So another dynamic that I think is important to understand when it comes to Jupiter is that this is a planet that is often characterized by being super awesome and benefic and bringing joy and abundance wherever it goes, and benefit and opportunities and good luck, and you got a good past, right? Jupiter's like on your moon all year, like you're gonna be okay, or Jupiter's on your sun all year, you're gonna be okay, like you've got a good past right now. And I don't have a pessimistic view of this. I just have a realistic view, from my understanding, that when you're working with Jupiter, it's actually about understanding maturity. And when we think about its um, affinity with Sagittarius and the ninth house, well, this governs over a depth of knowledge, right? Sagittarius and Jupiter, ninth house, deals with higher education, philosophy, higher schools of thought. It comes out of the eighth house. So in the eighth house, we will meet esoteric knowledge and the deeper understandings of intimacy with life. And then when we get into the ninth house with Jupiter or Sagittarius, we get to have a different belief or a different perspective or in a philosophy, so forth, of those situations, events, and people that we experience on a more intimate level. And so there is a need for maturity and wisdom to come with any Jupiter transit. And so if you're getting one, right, well, I mean, you're always going to have transiting Jupiter somewhere in your chart. But, if it's aspecting a certain angle or a planet in some degree and it's important, this is where that opportunity for that growth is kicked up a few notches. And Jupiter can bring opportunities and it can bring rewards and it can bring growth and expansion and reaching higher than where you are. And that doesn't mean like climbing the ladder essentially higher. That just means like elevating your mood, elevating your growth, elevating your status in the world, if that's important to you, elevating your education, elevating your overall just like life experience in general, or life quality. It depends what it's aspecting. um it has to come from some self-knowledge as well, and self-growth, or a willingness to open up to that. Okay. And so this is why I resonate with my teacher, and the fact that we can simplify Jupiter, and the fact that, like, oh my gosh, Jupiter is going to be in your eighth house and you are going to win the lottery. Like, no. Maybe. Maybe if that's your karma, but like most of the time that's not the case, right? So most of the time that's not the case. And like, let's untangle why that is not the case, and let's look at Jupiter from like the evolutionary perspective of what it's actually asking for you to do as an individual. Because if you do that, if you can do that, then you can tap and tune in to the expansion and the good feels. But the overall thing is that it will need some sense of sacrifice in the individual, and also some type of work, or willingness to work on your willingness to be open and expansive to new and better things, new opportunities, and so forth. And so I think it's great, and it's okay for people to have hope and belief, because, and especially faith in things, because when we're going through really difficult times or really difficult transits, or situations just feel overwhelming, well, hope and faith and opportunity, and the vision that something can get better is what it gets us through that, right? And that's when people lose those things, when we go into the pits of despair, and we can lose foresight of, you know, what the situation in the present moment is teaching us. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. I will do that from time to time because I have a very big living room window and she often likes to bark out the window. So I live with my dogs. I don't know. So, the natal placement will represent the opportunity that your chart has. Okay. And And transits will always expand on that natal Jupiter's placement opportunity. So definitely have a couple of thoughts over like your natal Jupiter and what planets is aspecting and what that means for you as far as growth. And then transiting Jupiter will always be adding to those expansions and that level expansion and that opportunity. And the natal Jupiter is going to resonate with you. You know, it's going to resonate with, yeah, I actually do want more opportunity and growth there. And I can see where the transiting position is helping me feed into that natal placement right now. Okay. And so Jupiter also helps us deal with difficult situations. And I have a couple of stories to give regarding that. So you know, it helps us deal with the healing of that, because it can bring in new insights essentially around any kind of difficult situation. So I think that's why we can consider it a benefic, because it can alleviate some of the hard pains. But to be honest, Jupiter can be a reason why we have some of those pains too. And actually that's like a nice streamline into one of the things that I want to talk about, is that oftentimes I haven't personally done enough death charts yet, or studied enough charts of death, but from what I have studied, and then also um, experience in my own personal life over the last 2 years, I've watched people close to me lose people close to them. And then also I lost my grandfather last year. Um, Jupiter is often a part of that traveling, that soul traveling to the next realm. And, you know, for me, it makes sense from a medium type of point of view that I have, being a trained medium and being a trained channel. I understand like the different dimensions and tapping into the other side, and the guides and past loved ones. But Jupiter does govern over trips, right? And traveling and so forth. But it can be very metaphysical, and it can be very spiritually involved, since it does deal with the art of religion, right? As well. So you oftentimes will see Jupiter in transits of when we lose something or someone or a situation or even a job or something that is very dear to us, something that we put a lot of faith and trust into, whole like as a substantial part of our growth system in our life. You know, like my grandfather was somebody who I had a lot of trust and faith, and who would always, you know, be there for me and so forth. And you know, so that was a Jupiter transit, and Jupiter is transiting my seventh house, right? So it has been a lot of coming and going of people who have meant a lot to me in my life. Okay. More than partners. Yes, partners has been a part of that, but um, it's also been a part of family members and good friends and loved ones and so forth. And you know, Jupiter is in Taurus as we speak, but it's in my seventh house, but it rules my eighth. Okay, so we, you know, the way I will do my predictive astrology is I will always take into consideration whole sign, but I predominantly use Porphyry or Placidus. Okay, and I can blend the meaning and the symbolism that way. So, but with one loss, what are you doing? Sorry. With one loss, there is also an opportunity for something to come in. And, you know, I'm a predictive astrologer. Like I knew this was happening. I could foresee this coming. And I knew, and I had faith, and I had trust, and I had intuition, which is a Jupiter quality, a gut instinct that when I lost my grandfather, who was the main male figure in my life growing up as a child and my early adult life, that my partner would come in who I felt was like a soul contract. And that's exactly what happened. Within a month, no, within like 3 months, That is what happened. That person had moved back home from a foreign country within a month, and it wasn't until 2 months later that we had met up. So again, it's about having faith and trust when you have a Jupiter transit. Yes, okay, it will bring loss sometimes, not all the time, but it can, because there is this need to remove something, even if that thing was a good thing. There's a need, and I mean, it's a part of like a cyclical cycle of death, right? That is a part of life, when we can understand and appreciate that for what it is. And then, a new opportunity would come in. So if I had just like stayed in that sad, grieving energy, where would my energy be to allow this newness to come in, which I felt intuitively would be that replacement, so forth, right? So anyway, let's look at it like that, and let's understand that Jupiter doesn't always trigger nonstop, ample, positive, optimistic anchors in our life. It can also trigger some pretty deep and powerful and emotionally challenging experiences in our life that really ask us to ask a couple of questions for ourselves. Okay. And so that's like the next transition I want to go into is Jupiter transits aren't just going to give you something. They're going to ask you to ask yourself, ask the questions of yourself, like, where am I playing small? And this is something I learned from Tom. Okay. So where am I playing small in my life? Where am I not seeing myself open to opportunity and possibilities? And where am I being really closed-minded? Okay, because Jupiter has a big expansive view. Okay, it does not want you to be narrow visioned. Okay, there's no room for growth, there's no room for good luck to come in when we stay in this pessimistic attitude, and we're not looking at the reality of life for what it is, and the fact that we can expand ourselves, and we can have maturity, and we can have growth if we are working on our own personal self-confidence and our ability to expand our mind. And so oftentimes with the Jupiter transit, it's asking you if you're willing to make a change. And this is why I think it is so crucial to understand Jupiter in this video when you have, and when we all experience that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in April, okay? Because Uranus, the planet of change, is going to be with Jupiter, who's asking you if you are willing to take the risk and you're willing to make a change in order to improve your life and create new opportunity and reach higher grounds and get the benefits that you are seeking and deserve, okay? But they're not going to happen unless you allow yourself to have the faith and the trust in yourself to let go of whatever grievances, whatever baggage you're holding on to, whatever people, whatever places, whatever things, right? Seriously, like, this is a tough thing to understand about Jupiter. I mean, I think a lot of people just think it hops, skips, and jumps around the chart, doing its own beneficial thing, when really it's a planet that needs to be taken very seriously, because it is only through taking the risk and the leaps with Jupiter and really asking yourself, like, am I playing small? It is in those moments, where you're really meeting the Jupiter archetype, okay, in your chart. And it can be about chance, and it can be about risk, okay? And it can be like really looking at yourself if you're undervaluing your skills, And I've been there with certain opportunities with work where I have, put in like so much time and energy into my spiritual coaching and astrology practice, and I have gotten so much education. Like, I don't know as many people that have invested in as many courses, okay? And this is a Jupiter thing. I have Jupiter in the 9th house natally. And I have invested many, 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 many dollars into courses and training and spiritual coaches and teachers so that I could really expand myself and really get different perspectives and visions and find what really aligned for me and would benefit myself first, because there's a little bit of selfish there, and that's okay with a Jupiter transit, to be honest. But then also, how could I then use those things that I teach and give that out into the world? Okay. And then I came to a time where I was a younger astrologer, but I knew that I needed to charge more. And that was a risk I was willing to take on myself, because again, you have to develop the trust and the faith in yourself and in your business. Like for me, I'm a small business owner, right? Independent business owner. You have to trust and have faith in the fact that, you're taking that risk, you're taking that leap, and that your value is there, and Jupiter and Taurus right now is bringing those things up. No matter where Jupiter is in your chart right now, transiting in Taurus, there are undertones. It could be in the 11th house in Taurus. It could be in the 9th house in Taurus. It could be the 7th house in Taurus. It could be in the 3rd house in Taurus. It doesn't matter. There's an undertone of value. And you have to ask the questions to yourself, like, am I valuing myself in these skills? Am I playing my own value too small? Do I deserve to take up more space? And 9 times out of the 10 for people that is the case, that they're not taking enough space, right? They're not allowing themselves to reach for the better, make a change, and stuff. And so that's why this Jupiter Uranus transit coming up in April again is so important, because it gives you an opportunity to really tap and hone in to the impulse that you will feel under that transit, to be a little bit more, you'll be a little bit more restless, because you'll know that there is now an opportunity for growth, and there's a reason why you were born and experiencing this transit now. Everybody in this world is experiencing this specific transit coming up for an individual purpose, and it would be amazing if a lot of people would be ready to jump and take leaps on those opportunities for growth. Okay. Another thing with Jupiter to understand is that the opportunity and the transit itself and what comes in with them in the situations, because Jupiter deals with bringing in things, but also losses within a sense. Understand that sometimes these certain people or situations can only stay if it's also benefiting them, right? And that's most of the time, that's most of the case. And this is a spiritual teaching that comes from Tom's spiritual coaching itself, that I worked through with him. And that is both parties have to benefit from the union. Okay. That can be a relationship, that can be a business partnership, that can be you with a company, that can be you with a stock market or something, right? Like, and that just would have to be broken down into even deeper details. But it is true, right? If it's not benefiting both parties or both situations, then that is when it leaves. That is when it releases from our life. And so if you're experiencing these things right now, especially while you can feel up to the eclipses coming up, and you can feel up into the Jupiter Uranus conjunction coming up, you might even know right now what that's going to mean for you. And I'm not saying everyone's going to experience a loss over the next few weeks, A little bit, yes, because I deal with lunar eclipses as major releases, and because it's kicking up the cardinal signs of all the cardinal signs, but specifically Libra and Aries, and this is the relationship dynamic. It is going to be pretty significant for a majority of people. So the thing is, you want to understand what Jupiter is also has to be beneficial. So if you're trying to take a risk, for instance, and this is where wisdom comes into play, and this is a case-by-case scenario, okay? But say you're having this Jupiter transit right now through the 8th house, and like you're trying to take a risk to save this marriage, for instance, and your partner is not beneficial for your health and well-being. Like this partner's dangerous, for instance, like say this is like an abusive partner. Jupiter here is asking you to take a risk to leave the abusive relationship, right? Not take a risk to try to change the person to get them to stay, right? There's like a situation where you have to use your gut instinct and your self-trust and your ability to know that you deserve a better opportunity, right? You deserve a better opportunity at life, at love, at relationship, at intimacy. Because in reality, nobody's going to change unless they want to change themselves. And that will be shown to you. Okay. That will be shown to you. If people are in that situation, for instance, you will clearly be able to see. And that's the thing, is you have to trust your gut instinct with these types of transits with Jupiter. You have to have faith in yourself. Okay. You have to strengthen that faith, that self-trust and self-confidence for you to make the right decisions. Okay. So that can be really tricky, can be really hard. But again, it's risky to even take the leap to do that, right? So, and really this Uranus, if you watch the Uranus transits video, you'll understand why um, this conjunction is going to be so beneficial for the people who are willing to pave their own way, have their own self-trust, and really take a risk and an opportunity to do something that inspires them and that makes them feel alive and that gives them more freedom. But they also have faith and a belief in the fact that that's going to work out and follow through. Okay. And that comes from a really internal process. And honestly, if you have questions about how to tap in and tune into that, leave me a comment down below and I can make a couple of videos on how to work with the chakra system, and what that means in developing your own self-trust and self-awareness and being able to make better decisions for yourself. Okay, so another thing about Jupiter transits, is that it's instinctual. So right where we're talking about the self-trust and self-awareness, it is a right brain archetype. So that's like when you just know something, like you ever have that thing, like, I know this, right? And I don't know how I know it, but I know it. That's Jupiter as well, right? That is that instinctual trust, that all knowing. Now, on the flip side, we can get dogmatic, right? We can get dogmatic with our beliefs, but that's when you come back to yourself and say, well, am I underestimating my belief? Am I thinking too mentally about this? Am I giving myself enough freedom of thinking, of expanding, of knowledge, and so forth? But sometimes you really know that it's actually reality, and that you know that to be true, and maybe it's not just some imposed belief that's being colored by judgments from others in other situations. Because another thing that this Jupiter Uranus conjunction is going to have a lot to deal with is releasing yourself from the judgments of other people and things and places and societies and cultures, if you want to pave your own path and go your own way and create your dream life, to be honest. So that's going to be kicked up, but we'll talk more about that in those videos as they come. So a couple other things. So I want to wrap up with, so you want to, okay. So the intuition thing was a lot in my notes. I was writing a lot about that because oftentimes we can know or intuitively feel something, and this is very metaphysical, right? This is very spiritual. I don't care what you want to call God, what you believe in, so forth, right? I subscribe to them all. I call them all. I make up my own name sometimes. It doesn't matter. Having that faith and that trust and that knowing and that intuition will allow you to take the leaps and seize opportunities. Okay. I talk a lot about that in my Uranus transition video. I have Uranus opposite Jupiter in my natal chart. So these two archetypes are extremely involved and extremely interlinked, and they both touch my sun sign and aspect very closely, and they both touch my moon sign and aspect very closely. So this like literally runs through my chart on such a major level, and that can be the case for many people, where you have these intuitive things, and what does that look like if you don't take that, right? What does that look like if you don't seize the opportunity, or what happens, right? It's like the negative stuff of shame or guilt or regret. Regret is a big one. Like, I wish I had taken that chance to move to that country 3 years ago. And it's not to say that if it's not for you, it won't happen again, because if it is, then the chart and the soul will orchestrate different dynamics for you to get to that place until you actually do. Um, but why prolong the pain, right? Why prolong the losses? Why not seize on the opportunities and the expansion and the ability to grow beyond what you even could have imagined? Because that's the thing with Jupiter, is like, it may be feeding off of your soul's, your ego's, uh, idealistic opportunity and faith and, dream vision that you're creating, but it actually may give you even beyond what you expected. Okay, but it just doesn't come without the individual asking themselves the real hard questions. Am I playing it small? Am I not taking a risk? Am I not willing to lose this to gain something else? It's really, really, really that simple when we break it down, right? It's not a good luck planet and good luck charm where you can just be sipping a pina colada and a briefcase of $100 million is gonna just fall into your lap. Although there's probably some TikToker out there who did that, but they were probably on TikTok creating their ass off for months on end, right? So, and then they had this beautiful fame transit, and it was like, oh, here you go. But the other thing is, you want to stop comparing yourself to others if you don't take those risks and don't take those leaps at that time, or if you had in the past, right? Stop comparing yourself to those situations. Focus on the present moment, what's here, what's now, and where Jupiter is transiting in your chart now, and what it means in your natal chart. As an example, one of my very good friends has had Jupiter transiting over her ascendant in her first house. And so, a lot of these Jupiterian lessons for her has been giving her a very optimistic, and this is somebody I see almost every day, a very optimistic viewpoint on life and her spiritual growth over the last few years, which has been amazing working with me. That things are going to be good and things are going to be okay. And she does have situations that um, present her difficulties, but then she asks herself, well, how did I make this happen? Or how I've been playing small right now, and am I willing to make the risk and the leap? And lately she has been talking about, and the first house with Jupiter is all about, your sense of joy and your life direction and your sense of independence, right? Are you expanding on that? Are you expanding on your own autonomy? Are you willing to take a leap and a risk in literally yourself and your independence and going your own way? And she has been focusing on her next endeavor with work, and taking a risk of leaving one to, or cutting down her hours essentially, which would be difficult for her, but so that she can focus on other work opportunities instead, right? And that's a scary thing to do, because money is a form of our survival and resources, and Jupiter is in Taurus, right? So, and she is a Taurus rising, so it is very scary for her to do that. And another thing is, she always wanted to build an ass, right? She always wanted to build an ass at the gym, and she has been not underestimating herself anymore and going to the gym with me every single day, and she's building one. Like, she's putting in that faith and that trust, and the regimen of the hard work is going to expand her literal behind, and give her that body that she wants and she dreams of. And another thing about the first house is it will affect your physical body. And so hopefully you can see how these things tie in. So it's not without effort, right? There has to be some effort, there has to be some risk taking involved. And then, like, not underestimating yourself anymore and going beyond your comfort zones, essentially. to get where you want to be. You know, I'm thinking about a 3-month sabbatical so I can literally just finish creating my courses here with astrology and just pour myself into my work here, and then see what happens, you know, and goes. So anyway, so that's it. I think that's enough on Jupiter transiting right now, and hopefully you watch the Uranus video as well, and then keep a lookout because I'm going to help you guys go through the houses with both Uranus and Jupiter, and then give you a rundown on this pretty cool transit happening in April. So again, if you are new here, please give me a subscribe if you vibe with this, and you can get updates when I put out videos. If you're returning, thank you. And I appreciate your comments and definitely your likes. It helps my channel grow. I appreciate everybody being here today. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of the weekend. Ciao.